Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Welcome to the Campus Dialogues, a Muslim Views production in affiliation with MuslimFin. MuslimFin, your roadmap to Islamic banking and finance. I'm your host Ali Sali, and here to introduce our guest this evening is my good friend and colleague Siraj Buzik. Siraj?
Assalamu alaikum, Ali. How are you doing?
Wa alaikum salam. Alhamdulillah. How are you?
Good to be back in studio.
Yeah, always good.
Listen, we have a very special guest with us today. I'm quite excited. I'm going to do a quick profile of our guest. This might take some time. So I'm going to try my best to do some justice. But let's see how it goes. So, we've got Adam in studio with us. And Adam is a skilled and respected commercial law specialist, serving as the director and head of the corporate and commercial law department at STBB. He graduated with a BA and an LLB from the University of Cape Town in 1995 and 1998 respectively. Adam served his articles of clerkship at ENSA Africa from 1999 to 2000, whereafter he was appointed as the associate and the M&A team in 2001. In 2004, Adam became an equity partner and remained at ENSA Africa until April 2015. During this time, he advised on numerous transactions and served in various leadership capacities at the firm. In May 2015, Adam joined Weber Wenzel, where he headed the firm's corporate law department in Cape Town and was the deputy head of the corporate law department nationally. Additionally, he served on the firm's various leadership structures, including its management board for 2 terms. In 2022, Adam joined STBB as an executive consultant and was subsequently appointed as a director of commercial law in 2023. With 23 years of post-admission experience, Adam specializes in mergers and acquisitions across South Africa and Africa, representing a diverse clientele in the local and international arena, and in both listed and unlisted environments. To that end, he is well placed to assess the strategic, operational, and legal viability of the company mergers and acquisitions, and to identify any legal obstacles to successful integration. He has an extensive experience in BBBEE transactions, advising on significant deals and navigating the complexities of the BBBEE Act and its regulations and codes of good practice. In addition, Adam has substantial experience in commercial real estate transactions, where he has played a key role in structuring and executing numerous high-profile property development transactions and sales across South Africa and sub-Saharan Africa. Further, Adam is well-versed in assisting multinationals investing in the region, as well as employee share incentive schemes. Adam's exemplary expertise has been consistently recognized by leading international research organizations, including Chambers Global, Legal 500, IFLR 1000, and Best Lawyers over the last 2 decades. Adam, welcome to our podcast.
Shukran for the invite.
Adam, that is quite a mouthful, right? And that's looking at your career. It spans over 20 years, and that's post-admission. But, for our viewers, who is Adam? Where did you grow up? Where did you go to school? What's your story?
A'udhu billahi minash shaitanir rajim. Bismillahir rahmanir rahim. Alhamdulillahi rabbil alameen. Wa salatu wa salam wa ala ashrafil mursaleen. Sayyidina wa nabiyyana wa maulana Muhammadin wa ala alihi wa sahbihi ajma'in. All praise is due to Allah alone, our nourisher, our sustainer and Lord of all the worlds. And we send blessings, peace, salutations on our beloved Rasul sallallahu alayhi wa sallam, his family, his friends, and all those who follow him until the end of time. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.
Wa alaikum salam.
Ali and Siraj, and to your viewers, and thank you so much for this invitation. I feel very blessed to be here and to share some of my experiences with your viewers. I grew up around the corner in a little area called Penland Estate. I went to primary school there at a school called Turfel Primary, and went to Belgravia High thereafter. And my mom and dad were both very intelligent and community-minded people. And under the apartheid days, if you were very clever, there was very limited vocations that you could do. It was very few people that would actually get into medicine and law and chartered accountancy. And so my dad and my mom were the stereotypical teacher and nurse, and they both worked for the state. My dad taught at the school called Florida High in Tiervlei, and my mom nursed at Somerset West, and eventually then became a tutor at Nicomelan Nursing College in Manenberg. They both worked very hard, alhamdulillah. Despite their humble beginnings, my dad was born in Beaufort West in the Karoo. My grandfather had come here from India and settled there, and had married my grandmother, Mary de Klerk, who then reverted to Islam. And my grandfather had passed away when their 4 kids were very young, and my grandmother had no background in Islam, nor was she in a place that could teach or foster Islam. There were very few Muslim families. But alhamdulillah, if you make your intentions right, Allah's mercy, Allah sent people to help them. She managed to get them all through madrasa, and each of them had a career. And so my dad, the story goes, he was born with a tooth. He matriculated at 16 and was a qualified teacher at 18.
Wow.
And my mom, she became the first black tutor in a nursing college, and she eventually became the rector of Nicomelan Nursing College. And quite late in her career, she was then poached by the private sector to commission the first black-owned hospital in the country, which was Gatesville Medical Center. So she left the state before they'd even built the first brick of GMC, and she helped the founders to commission that. She was the matron there for 18 years before she retired. Alhamdulillah, she enjoyed 21 years of retirement. She's still around today, living with me.
Okay.
And she'll be 90 this year, inshallah. Du'as, please, for my mother. My dad passed away in just about over 2 years ago after a short illness. So yeah, because they both had multiple degrees, honors, and so on. So for me, I had to study something. I did okay at school. I mean, I didn't have 1 A in matric. There was a B. There's a couple of C's. There were some D's. I just missed the state of emergency. So 85, I was in primary school, and in the last bits of the state of emergency in the late 80s, I was grade 7, 8, 9. So alhamdulillah, when it came to grade 11 and 12, things had stabilized a lot. The ANC was unbanned. We were sort of moving into this era of freedom. So the thing is now, what am I going to study? And alhamdulillah, my parents had associated with wonderful people because they were community workers as well, and spoke to many people. And eventually, my mother really wanted me to become a doctor, but I never had the results. Then she said I must go study dentistry, and I'm so scared of a dentist. There was no way I was going to do it. I was even registered for it at UWC. And then it was, look, we're going into democracy. The role of lawyers and the rule of law is going to become very important. Social justice, human rights, become a lawyer and contribute to the democracy. And this is sitting around the table with friends of my dad's like Dala Umar. And there was various people who inspired that. I had no idea what law entailed. So I did a BA degree first, because at that time you needed an undergrad degree, and a BA was all I could get in for. I majored in English and history and political studies, all the stuff that qualifies you to work at McDonald's. But my pool game really improved. My card game, Clever Just really, yeah. And then I applied to get in for law, and only through Allah I got in, and all I needed was a chance. And the first year was hard. It was so hard. I actually went to my dad and I said, I can't do this. I don't know what's going on. I want to drop out. And my dad was such a wise man. Instead of now saying, oh, we paid so much for your studies, he just said, look, don't deregister. Just stay at home for a week. And I stayed at home and I thought about it, and I thought to myself, what else am I going to do? I'm here now, I've got this opportunity. It would be almost sinful to waste it. Just go back and apply your mind. And it was the game changer for me. Was, so much begins in our deen with an intention. I had met somebody, and for me, it was now somebody that I was going to settle down with. So in the first year of my LLB, we got engaged. And, in our communities, is you've got to now work before you get married. I completely bucked it, right? I had 2 years to go. And I said to my dad, look, I want to get married now. Like, she's working, so we'll figure it out, And when I got married, my marks just changed. Because I was focused now, Yeah. So we got married at the beginning of my 5th year, and it's a 6-year degree, right? And now you're married, you're focused, you're no more out with your friends. Suddenly my marks got really good. And then in my final year, it just even got better. We even had our first child. I think I was studying for my final year exams.
Yeah.
Sarah was born in August, and I wrote September and October. And people say like, no, you must be focused. You can't. I mean, I had the ultimate distraction, a newborn baby. I studied corporation law with her laying on. Alhamdulillah, I mean, the intention was right. Allah does the rest. You just put in the hard work, And how law works is, if you have good marks, there's something called the Dean's Merit List, or if you're in the top 10 or the top 20, these big law firms come and look for you. They want the smartest people. And I was probably about somewhere between 15 and 20th in class. So there was 15 people before me who was going to stand in front of the queue. I remember it was still Ramadan that time. You couldn't email your CV. You had to take it in. I never had a computer. I went to my uncle's house. He had a PC. He had Windows. My wife, she was trained because she did a BCom degree. She typed up my CV. We printed it all, and only when we printed it all, we noticed there was one typing error. There was a C missing in health excellent. And I just said to just leave it. No one's going to see it. And I remember there was 36 CVs, and I hand-delivered it each. And out of that 36 CVs, I got 6 interviews.
Wow.
And I royally messed up 5 of them. I was a complete idiot in those interviews. But there was this one place, it was a law firm called Sonnenberg, Hoffman and Golombek. They weren't getting back to me. They didn't say no. And they brought me in for a second interview. Still never heard anything. But I need to get articles now. I'm married. I need to get on with this. Third interview, still nothing. But what was now happening is the 15 people before me, they were offering, and they were all these people were saying no. And going to Joburg. So, I was getting close. By the 4th interview, I was just phoning this guy every week, like, is there a spot? Is there a spot? Is there a spot? And then they brought a 4th interviewer in the last interview, this guy, Afrikaans guy. And they wanted now another opinion because they couldn't figure me out. I don't fit the mold. I wasn't at Bishops. I wasn't captain of the rugby team. Yeah. My dad wasn't a captain in industry. And, again, alhamdulillah, through the grace of Allah, all these doors opened for me and I got the job. I'll never forget, I went back to the lift, just pressing the button. And the guy ran back and he said, sorry, we got one more question for you. I said, I'm ready for the 5th interview. And we all sat down and everyone took a sip of, and he said, we got one more question. When can you start? Okay. And I was just like, alhamdulillah. Okay. Articles are sorted. And you know what? If you go to these big firms, you get the best training, you get exposed. And that's how I got into mergers, acquisitions, because your articles is 2 years, and in the second year of your articles, I we started our mergers and acquisition department.
Okay.
So I was there sort of from the beginning, but I'll tell you more about that a bit later. But that's sort of my educational journey.
Oh, fantastic, Adam. And shukran for sharing that with us. I mean, it's really an inspiring story, and I think that's the message also that you're trying to get across, to inspire those of our audience that are watching, and saying maybe that's something that I aspire to be like. I aspire to be a lawyer
100%.
someday. I also want to do these types of things. But I just want to step back a bit, and I want to talk about your parents and your upbringing. And in front of us here we have this book called Understanding the Beliefs and Practice of Islam. And this book was actually authored by your late father. Maybe you can share some of that, and for the audience, I'll just turn this around here. But maybe you can share some of that with us as well.
Yeah, so my dad came to Cape Town, having grown up in Beaufort West. He always tells the story, when he came to Cape Town, he couldn't speak English. He had to learn to speak English because they just spoke Afrikaans. And he was searching for something, There's also this funny story of him and some of his friends trying to be communists in the 60s. We all know what happened to communism. And, my dad underwent this journey, and even though he was born Muslim, he, almost like a revert, found Islam. And because of his teaching ability, and in the circles he moved, he then became affiliated with an organization called the Muslim Assembly Cape, which was based in Newfields, which was very close to Penryn, where I grew up. And he got involved in the activities. My mom also got involved. And I basically grew up there. If you weren't at home, you were at the Muslim Assembly doing something. And it was a hive of activity. It had been formed in the 60s. By a bunch of businessmen who sort of invested it. There was a property, they built a building on it. And it was supposed to be a hub of education. So it's nestled between Hanover Park and Manenberg, and essentially served the surrounding communities. And, apart from sort of just shall we just call it general upliftment, whether it was food parcels or drug counseling, marriage counseling. They used to sit on the prison board for years, all those types of things. Their philosophy was the best way is to teach somebody how to think, and then they can tackle anything in life or that life challenges them. I mean, over the years, my dad and a gentleman called Dr. Hussein Musa Kotwal, also a legend in the community, taught these evening classes. It was on a Monday night and a Wednesday night. And it was geared towards three types of people, mainly, but many different types of people attended. It was for reverts. It was for youth, so people going through their teens who are confused and trying to find meaning. And it was also for elderly people who had grown up Muslim but never understood why they're Muslim, what it means to be Muslim. It sort of, it was a ritualized type of religion, And I got dragged to these classes for years. I wanted to watch Mnet Open Time. And when you're a young person, you don't understand it. And I just look back now and I just say, Shukr Allah for my dad. And sitting there year on year, because the thing is, if you attend a class once, you kind of understand it. You attend it for 7 years in a row and you hear the same stuff. It's just something happens to you, man. It's like osmosis or something. And that was something really beautiful. I always said when I entered the corporate world, I had two cheats. I had my deen, because my dad always used to say, we swim in a sea of facade every day. If you sit in a mosque all day and you pray 5 times a day in a mosque and you read Quran, and the only people you know are the people in the mosque, you live a very different life to a person who must get up, get in their car, drive into the CBT and work in a corporate office. You get exposed to so many things. So I had two cheats. The one was I had my deen, which I could always fall back on when things got tough. and two is I had these classes that instilled all these principles into me. You know, when other people were falling over, it was like, for me, it was like I was eating cupcakes. So, you know, alhamdulillah, to manifest that for you, in this big corporate law firm, somebody who hadn't come from an institutionalized, you know, sort of background, here I was, I had made equity partner in essence 3 years after qualifying, where your normal journey is 2 years as an associate, 2 years as a senior associate, 2 years as a salaried partner, and then you make equity partner. It was unheard of. It was, and you know, you couldn't explain it, but I just knew I was on a journey, you know. And I'll get a bit later more into that journey. Yeah. So that was my dad, you know. And then when he eventually left teaching, he took the package in the late 80s. He then went full time into the Muslim Assembly. He became the executive director. And took over all the operational stuff as well as the teaching. And then, you know, alhamdulillah, I mean, imagine getting up every day and all you do is you serve Allah.
Wow.
I mean, and you benefit the ummah in various ways. And when he eventually retired, we said to him, look, you've got to put your syllabus in a book because so many people benefited from it. You know, let it continue. It's a sadaqah to jariyah, right? And he then started writing it with the help of Maulana Ridwan Matthews. It was a long journey because he had a double retinal detachment while he was writing. First the one eye and then the other eye. The one eye they couldn't save, the other one he got some vision back. And I mean, I remember him at night, they just sitting and writing this thing. And he was such a perfectionist. He wrote it over and over and over. Until one day I said to him, look, it's 7 years now, just stop. We're going to take what you got and we're going to publish it. No, I said, that's it. I did a bit of research on how you publish a book. I mean, the Muslim Assembly had published a number of books, but I mean, it was like amateur stuff, you know. Okay. I wanted to really do something special, and I surrounded ourselves with a team who helped us put this together. And, you know, I worked every day with my father making this reality. And, you know, I'm an only child.
Okay.
And I came very late. My mom was 40 when she had me. My dad was in his mid-30s. That's another story of how I was never supposed to be. Allah's great. And we worked together and put this book together until it was published in 2018. And, you know, the idea is just to get as many copies out there to people who can benefit from it. I mean, the amount of non-Muslims and reverts who have gotten their hands on this book already is really pleasing to me. And, you know, inshallah, I think we need to do a second edition. I've got to start working on that. I want to swap a few chapters around because it is a bit all over the place. The hidden gems are interspersed between the chapters that we take for granted. So, you know, you'll flick through it and you'll see du'as and surahs and how to make salah, how to perform hajj. And then you'll get a chapter that says choosing your ideology. So my dad was a master student in history, and he loved history. And what he had done, he'd done a comparative study of all ideologies and why they fail, and why Islam is the one only true ideology that permeates and tells you how to deal with every aspect of your life. Religious, spiritual, physical, economic, social, justice, every single bit that you need in your life. The answer is in the Quran and the Sunnah, if you are just tuned into it and you can listen to it. So, I mean, there's a chapter in there where he says, now, as intelligent human beings, what is your criteria when you choose an ideology? Like, you know, like who's the author? Who's the leader? What are the attributes of the leader? And then you just say, Muhammad sallallahu alayhi wasallam. And then, you know, so there's some really good chapters in there that could benefit people, but you got to get through past the things you know.
No.
Because you must remember this book is very broad. It's
Correct.
for many types of people, like
Yeah.
those 3 categories that I mentioned.
Adam, it's inspiring listening to you and just listening to your upbringing and you speaking about your parents. That's obviously molded the type of person you are today. But I want to get back to you and your career. You've got over 23 years in commercial law. And with that experience and the career you've had, what still excites you about this field of law, and what would you change about legal practice in South Africa?
So I'm still very excited when I get up in the morning. You know what I like about my job is I never know what the day holds in store. You know, the type of things that I do, it's normally very exciting for a company, because I basically buy and sell companies, which either means somebody's owned a company for many, many years and they finally want to dispose of their baby. And what does that mean? Or somebody is looking to acquire something, and what does that mean? And I mean, I've been blessed over the years to be involved in some of the most transformational transactions that the country's ever seen. I mean, I'll give you an example. One of sort of my career defining deals was PepsiCo's acquisition of Pioneer Foods. The purchase price was 25.5 billion rand. It was a 6-year process that I was involved in from day one until the end. There were so many aspects of it. There were so many jobs. There were so many business lines. So it's really exciting. But I guess I turned 50 last year, alhamdulillah. Now in my older years,
I'm not that old, eh? You're in your prime now.
I'm in my prime. I find my focus to be very different, which is I have this experience, I have a network, I have a certain gravitas. How am I going to use that to help people who really need it?
Yeah.
So what I try and do is almost every day is find somebody I can help. And it may be a lady who's just trying to get her husband's pension out of the GPF, or it may be a Muslim organization or a masjid that needs something. And alhamdulillah, you know, the people find me, and I'm honored enough to work for some of the biggest Islamic organizations in Cape Town and help them with a lot of their challenges. So I've Muslim Views. I'm their corporate lawyer for the last few years. Islamic Relief across the road. I do all their legal work. Islamic Council of South Africa, Muslim Assembly, many masajids. I serve with Sheikh Muhammad West, who I see sitting out there on certain subcommittees of the MJC when I'm requested. So that gives me my meaning and my purpose now. And I mean, maybe it's time to get a bit deep, right? So, like, why are we here, right? Like, why are we here? I'm not here for my own self-importance, or to have a big house, or have a beautiful family, or drive a fancy car, because all those things are temporary, right? So why am I here? You know, Allah put us here for a reason, and Allah doesn't need us. I mean, we could have all just been in Jannah without having all the challenges that we have. Allah put us here for us to get to know Allah. And that is a process. And I think it's a process of ups and downs. And when I say ups and downs, I mean we drawing closer to Allah. But there are going to be times when we draw away as well. But Allah's all forgiving as long as you always come back to Allah, right? So I'd like to think that I'm in a process of getting to know Allah and to get closer to Allah and to please Allah. And that's the be all and the end all, right? And my constant day is this. My dad has the seesaw in his book where he describes the human personality, where he says there is your higher self, which is your ruh, which constantly wants to draw closer to Allah. And then there's your lower self, your nafs, your instincts, which constantly wants to pull you down. And life is about getting that imbalance. You want that imbalance. You want that ruh to descend above. And I guess we all as human beings are just trying to find ways, whether we know it or not, to bring that higher self up. And, I find that helping people is maybe one way I could do it, Why did Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala put me here? Did Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala put me here to brag about my CV? It can't be that, right? It must be that Allah's given me everything I have, my intellect, my knowledge, my success, my degree. How am I going to now use that, And it's to find ways to do that. And charity always begins at home. So it's with your parents. Honor your parents. Look after. I remember my dad used to live 800 meters down the road from me. And if there's one important message, is this one, is honor your parents, no matter what. My dad would phone me 11 o'clock at night. He used to call me Adi. He says, Adi, TV's off. Just come see quickly. I would jump out of bed. I would say, Allah, thank you for this opportunity to please you. I get in my car, I drive that 800 meters down the road. And all that happened is my mother sat on the off button on the decoder. But for them, the TV's now off,
Yeah.
I'd press the power button, I'd kiss them both on their forehead, and then I'd go back home, Is honor your parents. They taught us in madrasa, when your parents talk, you can't even say, you can't even say that.
Yeah.
And love your parents, eh?
Absolutely. Adam, you know what? And listening to you speak, what I hear from your story is that if I think about you were a laat lammetjie, and for some people they understand what that means. It's like you were, your parents were older when you were born. You're the only child, and obviously your parents were very intelligent and passed on a lot of wisdom to you. So automatically growing up, being exposed to various types of community leaders, being involved in these organizations, and really being exposed to different ways of thinking. Like you said, you were part of this class 7 years in a row, and the class focused on thinking, how to actually go about thinking, how to use your mind to think, and I'm sure there was a lot more to it. And then when I hear you speak, I heard you talk about, manifesting things, So when you went into your career, you took a lot of those lessons, and you were already manifesting in a sense that you were saying, look, I am going to achieve these things, I'm going to be an equity partner. I'm going to, that's where I'm going to be. So that is why you were able to envision it in a sense, and you were able to then achieve these goals within a much shorter period of time than some of the other people in the same career as you. And when I think about some of the things that we trying to do here within MuslimFin, is really about helping the community, educating, creating awareness, and really putting that word out there. And you're 50 now, still very young, in your prime, just like we said. And you're now at that point where you're saying, okay, look, I've achieved all these things, but really importantly, why are we here? What are we here to do? And we really hear about, giving back to the community. And I really thank you for sharing your story with us, and again to the audience, understanding the beliefs and practice of Islam. So please try and get a copy of this book. And Adam, there's so much more that I want to talk to you about, specifically when it comes to commercial deals. But I'm definitely going to have you on, and we're going to definitely have to really get into the specifics of that, because that's going to be super interesting. And just listening to you talking about some of the deals that you were part of, we would love to highlight that and really bring it out to the audience, because our community don't know that we have people like yourself in the community in many cases. And yes, there are people that are reaching out to you, that are getting access to your knowledge and experience, but some of the people on the ground actually achieving such great things and are able to create such amazing deals and opportunities. So again, shukran for your time, shukran for being here. What I would maybe just like to end off with is for you, if there was anything that you know, in terms of, we're always trying to give advice to the youth. If someone were to listen to this podcast now and they would say, well, you know, I want to aspire to be like Adam, what would you say to someone like that? You know, someone that's maybe in high school right now, thinking about, you know, the career path and what is it that I actually want to do? What is your advice to someone like that?
Yeah, I'd start off by saying, don't aspire to be like Adam and don't set your target so low. You know, there's a tried and tested formula for success. Good intention, hard work, honesty and integrity. And then it helps if you have a certain skill that somebody else doesn't have. And most of the time you don't know you have that skill. So, alhamdulillah, my skill, which I didn't even know I had, was something called rainmaking. I don't know if you guys are familiar with the term, right? So in a law firm, you get 3 types of lawyers. You get minders, grinders, and finders, right? Finder is, they go out and they find all the work. A minder is the person who manages the work, make sure it gets allocated. And then a grinder is the person who does it. If you can do all 3, you got a winning formula in a law firm. Alhamdulillah, I had all 3. I worked hard. I managed people well. I treated them with respect. I taught them. I transferred my knowledge. I wasn't selfish. I wasn't scared that they were going to steal my clients. I wanted them to take my clients so that I could go find more. So, hard work. Find your superpower. Integrity. Honesty. Do you know what the winning formula is? It's the Sunnah of Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam. It's all there. He brought everything for us. We forget about it, but just go and remind yourself. His Quranic sunnahs with truthfulness, trustworthiness, and honesty. Al-Sadiq Al-Amin.
Adam, shukran so much for the opportunity. We really enjoyed the chat. And like Ali said, we'll definitely have you back for part 2. We will get in some of the juicier things in terms of your career and law. And I actually wanted to ask you, is it really as glamorous as Hollywood portray law to be? You know, all these movies, the series that you watch.
So I would say to you, things happen a lot quicker on the series just because of the time factor. It takes a lot longer. In big corporate, it's probably even more glamorous. I mean, it is crazy, but one must also be careful not to be distracted by it. It is a very fulfilling career, but you know, to be a lawyer it's a bit like hotels. You get a 1-star hotel, you get a 2-star hotel, and then you get a 7-star hotel in Dubai. You know, which is like you got your own butler, lift. And so it depends which hotel you end up in, and that all depends on your journey, your results, how you get there. You know, some people don't go there directly; they start in a 2-star or 3-star hotel, and then they work their way up. It can be, but it's hard work. It's probably one of the most punishing professions when it comes, because you sell time. There's only 24 hours in a day. To be effective, you work long hours.
100%.
Yeah.
Okay.
And I mean, something else we could probably touch on another podcast after we talk about sort of the deal flows and the foreign investment. Is also just my experience around Sharia and deal making and investment. It's a different angle to like ordinary Sharia banking and so on.
Yes.
But that's also something we can talk about.
Definitely. We have run out of time, unfortunately, because otherwise we would definitely want to go into that. But as we said, we will definitely have you on again. Jazakallah khair. May Allah bless you.
Amen.
And may you continue to do your good work for many, many more years, inshallah. Ameen. And may all your hard work be accepted. And we thank you again for being here. If you enjoyed this episode and you were inspired by this, please give us a like. leave a comment, hit the bell icon, and assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.